Montana Territory, 1872. Crimson and gold streaked across the vast evening sky as dust clouds billowed behind James Harrington's prized stallion, Thunder. The magnificent black beast galloped across the open prairie, his wild mane whipping in the wind, free and untamed like the man who owned him. At 25, James was already known throughout Willow Creek as one of the finest horsemen and cattle drivers in the territory. Tall and broad-shouldered with sandy brown hair that fell just above his clear blue eyes, he cut an impressive figure on horseback. But behind his confident exterior and easy smile lay a wounded soul, scarred by loss too deep for words. "A man can only count on himself and his horse out here," he often said to the cowhands who worked his ranch. "Everything else is just asking for disappointment." 3 years earlier, James had watched helplessly as influenza swept through his family's homestead, taking both his parents and younger sister within a single, devastating week. The frontier had taught him its cruelest lesson: attachment meant inevitable pain. Since then, he'd built his modest ranch into something respectable, but kept everyone at arm's length, hiring hands seasonally, but never letting anyone close enough to leave another hole in his heart when they inevitably disappeared. The land was his only constant companion. That and Thunder, the magnificent stallion his father had helped him train since the horse was a colt. The animal was more than a possession. He was James's last connection to his family, a living reminder of happier days. But even as he expanded his herd and his reputation grew, a hollow emptiness followed James like a shadow. Some nights, sitting alone by the fire in his cabin, he'd catch himself listening for voices that would never again fill the rooms. In those moments, he wondered if success meant anything without someone to share it with. But he'd quickly push those thoughts away. Vulnerability was a luxury the frontier didn't afford. 20 miles east of James's ranch, the stagecoach carrying Olivia Lawson rattled and bounced over the rutted trail toward Willow Creek. At 22, with chestnut hair falling in soft waves past her shoulders and eyes the warm brown of autumn leaves, she clutched her medical bag tightly against her calico dress. Despite her youth, determination hardened her delicate features. "Nearly there, Miss Lawson," the driver called down. "Willow Creek ain't much to look at, but the people are decent enough." Olivia nodded, peering through the window at the endless expanse of prairie and distant mountains. After years of struggle to complete her medical training against every obstacle society could place before a woman, she'd accepted the position as Willow Creek's doctor out of necessity. No established Eastern practice would hire a female physician, regardless of her qualifications. "The frontier needs healers more than it needs prejudice," her mentor had told her. "Out west, results matter more than traditions." She hoped he was right. Olivia had spent her life proving people wrong. First when her mother died in childbirth, leaving her father to raise her alone. Then when teachers insisted medicine wasn't a suitable profession for a delicate female constitution. And finally when her fiancé had demanded she abandon her medical aspirations to become a proper wife. She'd chosen her calling over marriage, and while she never regretted her decision, the journey west represented her last chance to practice the medicine she'd sacrificed everything to learn. "I don't need a husband to fulfill my purpose," she whispered to herself as the stagecoach lurched forward. "My hands were made for healing, not just keeping house." Yet deep down, Olivia wondered if she might someday find someone who could accept her exactly as she was, doctor's bag and all. The stagecoach arrived just before dusk, depositing Olivia in front of the town's only hotel. Willow Creek consisted of little more than a main street with the essential businesses: general store, blacksmith, saloon, small church, and now, she noted with satisfaction, a doctor's office with an attached living quarters at the far end of town. She had just settled into her new quarters when an urgent pounding at the door startled her. Opening it, she found a breathless young cowboy, hat in hand. "Doc Stevens here?" he asked, looking past her. "Dr. Stevens has retired." "I'm Dr. Lawson, the new physician," she replied firmly. The young man's eyes widened. "A lady doctor? Well, that is." He twisted his hat nervously. "Is someone hurt?" Olivia prompted. "Not someone, ma'am. Mr. Harrington's prize stallion gashed himself something awful on barbed wire. Mr. Harrington's beside himself. That horse is everything to him." Olivia hesitated only briefly. While she'd specialized in human medicine, Her training had included veterinary basics. Give me a moment to gather my supplies. Within minutes, she was riding double with the ranch hand toward the Harrington property. The stars were just beginning to appear in the darkening sky as they approached a modest but well-built ranch house. Behind it stood a large barn, lantern lights spilling from its open doors. Inside, she found James Harrington kneeling beside his fallen stallion. The magnificent black horse lay on his side, breathing heavily, a jagged wound running along his right flank. Blood matted the animal's gleaming coat. "Who's this?" James demanded without looking up, his voice tight with worry. "The new doctor," the ranch hand explained. "Doc Stevens left last month, remember?" James finally glanced up, surprise registering on his face as he took in Olivia's appearance. "You're the doctor?" "I am." Olivia knelt beside him, already assessing the wound. "And your horse has lost a lot of blood. If you want him to live, I suggest you set aside any doubts about my abilities and help me save him." Something in her steady gaze made James nod curtly. "Tell me what to do." For the next 3 hours, they worked together in focused silence. Olivia cleaned and stitched the deep gash while James kept the horse calm, murmuring reassurances in the animal's ear. She administered medicines from her bag, explaining each step with quiet authority that gradually earned James's respect. By midnight, Thunder's breathing had stabilized, the bleeding stopped. Olivia sat back on her heels, exhaustion flooding through her. "He'll need careful tending for at least 2 weeks, she explained, wiping blood from her hands. "The wound must be kept clean, and these stitches checked daily. I'll come by tomorrow to show you how to change the dressing." James studied her, seeing past his initial surprise to the skilled physician before him. "I've never seen anyone work like that, not even with people, let alone horses." "Medicine is medicine, Mr. Harrington," she replied, packing her supplies. "And every living creature deserves care." "James," he corrected, offering his hand. As their palms met, something unexpected passed between them, a moment of connection neither had been seeking. "Olivia," she responded, quickly withdrawing her hand. "Olivia Lawson." As the ranch hand drove her back to town, Olivia found herself thinking about the intensity in James Harrington's blue eyes. Despite his rugged exterior, she'd glimpsed a gentleness in how he'd stroked his horse's mane, a vulnerability in his voice as he'd whispered reassurances. It contradicted everything she'd heard about frontier men being hard and unfeeling, particularly this one, whom townspeople had already described as a loner who kept to himself. What she couldn't know was that James lay awake that night, staring at his ceiling, thinking about the determination in her steady hands and the compassion in her eyes when she'd treated Thunder. For the first time since losing his family, he felt a strange, uncomfortable stirring, the possibility that not everyone would inevitably disappoint or leave him. True to her word, Olivia returned the next day to check on Thunder. She found James in the barn, having clearly spent the night beside his horse. "You look terrible," she observed, setting down her medical bag. A faint smile touched his lips. "Always this direct with your patients, doctor?" "Only the stubborn ones." She knelt beside Thunder, examining the wound with careful fingers. "The inflammation is minimal. That's promising." As she demonstrated how to clean and dress the wound, James watched her movements, memorizing each step. Their hands occasionally brushed, sending unexpected warmth through both of them. "Why did you become a doctor?" he asked suddenly. Olivia paused, surprised by his interest. "My mother died in childbirth when I was born. I grew up believing that if the doctor had known more, been better prepared, she might have lived." She continued working as she spoke. "What about you? Have you always been a rancher?" "Born to it," James replied. "My father started this place with nothing but 20 acres and 4 scrawny cattle. By the time I was 18, we built it to one of the better operations in the territory." His voice grew quieter. "Then 3 years ago, we lost everything that mattered." "Your family?" she asked gently. He nodded, turning away. "Influenza. Took them all in a week while I was away delivering cattle to Fort Benton. Thunder here is the only thing I have left of them." Olivia finished bandaging the horse in silence, understanding now why saving the stallion meant so much to him. "I'll need to come check on him again tomorrow," she said finally. "I'd appreciate that," James replied, walking her to the door. Then, hesitantly, "Perhaps you might stay for dinner? As payment for your services." "That's not necessary," she began, but something in his expression stopped her. Was it loneliness? But I'd be happy to. Those daily visits stretched into weeks as Thunder's recovery progressed. Each time Olivia arrived, she found James had prepared something. First just coffee, then simple meals that gradually became more elaborate as he discovered she enjoyed his cooking. Their conversations grew longer, ranging from books they'd read to their differing views on the territory's future. Montana will be a state within 10 years, James predicted one evening as they sat on his porch, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold. And when it is, I hope women will have the vote here, Olivia replied. Wyoming territory has already granted it. He chuckled. You'd turn everything upside down if you could, wouldn't you? The world needs turning sometimes, James. Especially out here where everything is still being built. We have a chance to build it better. As May turned to June, Thunder improved enough to take short walks around the corral. Olivia had no medical reason to continue her daily visits, yet still she came, and still James looked for her arrival each afternoon. The ranch hands exchanged knowing glances, but said nothing. One evening, as a summer storm gathered on the horizon, James invited Olivia to see a new foal born the previous night. They stood side by side in the barn, watching the wobbly-legged creature nurse from its mother. Life finds a way, even in the harshest places, Olivia observed. Is that why you came west? James asked. To find life in a harsh place. She considered this. I came because no one back east would let me be what I am. But I'm staying because I've found purpose here. She turned to face him. What about you? Why do you stay when this land took so much from you? The question hung between them, weighted with unspoken feelings. Before James could answer, thunder cracked overhead and rain began pounding on the barn roof. Within minutes, the storm intensified into a deluge. You can't ride back in this, James said. You'll have to wait it out. They retreated to the house where James built up the fire while Olivia stood by the window, watching lightning split the darkened sky. I stay because this is where my family's memory lives, he said finally, answering her earlier question. Every tree my father planted, every fence we built together. Leaving would be like losing them again. Olivia turned from the window. And is memory enough to build a life on? Their eyes met across the room, the question hanging between them. James took a step toward her, then hesitated. It has been, he said quietly. Until now. The storm raged through the night, trapping Olivia at the ranch until morning. James gave her his bed while he slept by the fire, but neither found much rest, too aware of the other's presence under the same roof. When dawn broke clear and bright, revealing a world washed clean by rain, something had shifted between them. Word spread quickly through Willow Creek that the reclusive rancher and the lady doctor were becoming more than friends. Some approved. Others did not think a woman should be practicing medicine at all. When Olivia lost her first patient, a miner with a crushed leg she couldn't save, the whispers grew louder. They say if a real doctor had been here, Sullivan might have lived, the general store owner told her when she came for supplies. A real doctor couldn't have saved that leg either, she replied firmly, though the words stung. That evening, she rode to James's ranch earlier than usual, needing the comfort of his company after the difficult day. She found him breaking a new horse in the corral, his movements confident and graceful as he guided the spirited animal. Watching him, Olivia felt a surge of emotion she'd been trying to ignore for weeks. She'd come west determined to prove she didn't need a man to complete her life, yet here she was, drawn inexorably to one. But James was different from the men back east who'd wanted to change her. He seemed to admire her exactly as she was. James spotted her and waved her over to the fence. Thunder took his first real gallop today, he announced, pride evident in his voice. You saved him, Olivia. I can never repay that. You don't need to, she said. Seeing him recover is enough. He studied her face. Something's wrong. What happened? She told him about the miner and the town's reaction. To her surprise, James's expression darkened with anger. Those same people would have watched Sullivan die without lifting a finger, he said. At least you tried. That's more courage than most folks have. His defense moved her deeply. Impulsively, she reached for his hand across the fence. Thank you for understanding. Their fingers intertwined, and for a moment, neither spoke. Then James cleared his throat. The summer social is Saturday. Would you consider attending with me? Olivia's heart skipped. The summer social was the biggest event in Willow Creek, and he was essentially asking to court her publicly. I would like that very much. Saturday arrived bright and clear. James appeared at her door wearing his best shirt, his hair neatly combed, looking younger and less careworn than she'd ever seen him. Olivia had sewn herself a new dress of sky blue calico with white trim, and she felt a flutter of pleasure at the admiration in his eyes. The social was held in the town square, with tables of food, a small band, and lanterns strung between trees. When James and Olivia arrived together, conversations momentarily paused before resuming with increased intensity. Neither of them cared. They danced beneath the stars, James proving surprisingly light on his feet for a cowboy. During a pause in the music, he led her away from the crowd toward a quiet spot beneath a large cottonwood tree. "I've been thinking about what you asked," he said, taking both her hands in his. "About whether memory is enough to build a life on." He took a deep breath. "It's not. I've been surviving, not living. Until you came along." Olivia's heart raced as he continued. "I told myself the frontier was no place for love, that caring for anyone meant inevitable pain when this harsh land took them away. But you make me want to risk it again, Olivia. You make me want to believe in more than just survival." She stepped closer to him. "I came west believing I didn't need anyone, that independence was enough. I was wrong too. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. When they returned to the dance, the town saw the change between them, written plainly on their faces. But not everyone celebrated their happiness. Samuel Thornton, Willow Creek's wealthiest cattle baron, watched with narrowed eyes. He'd had his sights set on acquiring James's strategically located ranch for years, but the young rancher had always refused to sell. Now, seeing James's newfound joy, Thornton sensed leverage he hadn't had before. 2 weeks after the social, as Olivia treated patients in her office, Thornton paid her an unexpected visit. "Dr. Lawson," he greeted her with exaggerated courtesy. "I wonder if I might have a word about your association with young Harrington." "My personal affairs are not open for discussion, Mr. Thornton," she replied coolly. "They become my concern when they affect business matters." His tone hardened. "Harrington's land controls access to the North Valley water rights, water my cattle need. He's been unreasonable in his refusal to sell. That hardly involves me, doesn't it?" Thornton examined his fingernails casually. A woman doctor already faces considerable challenges in a place like this. One unfortunate incident, a patient's death under questionable circumstances, perhaps, could end your practice permanently. Olivia stared at him, shock turning to anger. "Are you threatening me?" "Merely pointing out realities, my dear. Convince Harrington to sell to me, and I'll ensure your practice thrives. Otherwise," he let the implication hang in the air. After he left, Olivia sat trembling with rage and fear. She knew such threats weren't idle on the frontier, where law was often whatever the powerful declared it to be. That evening, when James came to take her for their usual ride, she was distant and preoccupied. Noticing her mood, he guided their horses to a hilltop overlooking his ranch, where wildflowers carpeted the ground in patches of purple and gold. "Something's troubling you," he said as they dismounted. "Tell me." She hesitated, then related Thornton's visit. James's expression darkened with each word. "I should have expected this," he said grimly. "Thornton's been trying to force me out for years. What will you do?" "Stand my ground. This land is all I have left of my family. I won't surrender it to a man like him." Olivia took a deep breath. Perhaps we should stop seeing each other for a while, until this blows over." James stared at her in disbelief. "Is that what you want?" "Of course not. But I'm afraid for you. Thornton has power in this territory. So we let him win? Let him control our lives with threats." James took her hands fiercely. "I've spent 3 years hiding from life, Olivia. I won't go back to that, not even to protect this land. But your ranch is just land without someone to share it with." His blue eyes blazed with intensity. "I love you, Olivia. I didn't want to, but I do. And I won't let Thornton or anyone else take that from me." The declaration stunned her into silence. For a moment, she could only stare at him, her heart pounding. Then she stepped into his arms. "I love you too," she whispered against his chest. "And I'm tired of letting fear dictate my choices." They returned to town determined to face Thornton together, but their resolve was tested sooner than expected. That night, thunder awakened Olivia from a restless sleep, but the sound wasn't from the sky. It was hoofbeats approaching fast. A pounding on her door revealed one of James's ranch hands, his face streaked with soot. Fire at the ranch, Doc? The barn's ablaze, and Thunder's trapped inside. Hard in her throat, Olivia grabbed her medical bag and rode hard through the darkness. The night sky glowed orange from miles away, and as they crested the final hill, she saw the Harrington barn engulfed in flames. Men formed a bucket line from the well, but the fire was winning. She found James at the barn entrance, struggling against two hands who held him back. "Thunder's in there," he shouted, his face anguished. "Let me through. The roof's about to collapse, boss," one man argued. "You'll die in there." Before anyone could stop her, Olivia pulled her shawl over her face and darted past them into the inferno. The heat struck her like a physical blow, smoke burning her lungs as she stumbled forward, calling for Thunder. A panicked whinny answered from the back stall. Through watering eyes, she spotted the stallion, rearing in terror, flames licking dangerously close. The path between them was partially blocked by burning timbers. "Olivia!" James's voice came from behind her as he pushed through the smoke. Together, they forced a path to Thunder's stall. "Cover his eyes," she shouted over the roar of the fire. James pulled off his shirt, wrapping it around the horse's head while Olivia opened the stall door. Together, they led the terrified animal toward the exit, dodging falling debris. They had almost reached the door when a burning beam crashed down, striking James's shoulder. He stumbled, crying out in pain. "Go," he shouted to Olivia. "Get Thunder out." Instead, she seized James's arm with one hand, while keeping hold of Thunder's lead with the other. With strength born of desperation, she pulled them both through the doorway seconds before the entire structure collapsed behind them in a shower of sparks and flaming wood. Outside, they collapsed to the ground, coughing and gasping for air. Ranch hands rushed to take Thunder, leading him to safety while others helped James and Olivia away from the heat. "Why?" James demanded when he could speak, his voice raw from smoke. "Why risk yourself like that?" Olivia, her face streaked with soot, looked at him with tear-filled eyes. "Because I know what he means to you. And because you mean everything to me." Despite the pain of his burned shoulder, James pulled her into his arms. "I almost lost you," he murmured into her hair. "I couldn't bear that." As dawn broke, revealing the smoldering ruins of the barn, James found boot prints and an empty kerosene can that confirmed his suspicions. The fire had been deliberately set. "Thornton," he said grimly, "this is just the beginning." The next week brought escalating tensions. Thornton's men began driving their cattle onto James's grazing land. While in town, rumors circulated that Olivia had misdiagnosed several patients. When the stagecoach brought supplies for her practice, they mysteriously vanished before reaching her office. "He's trying to drive us both out," Olivia said one evening as they sat on her porch. "And he's turning the town against us." James's jaw tightened. "Let me face him alone. This was my fight before you became involved. I won't be pushed aside, James. We stand together or not at all." Their standoff with Thornton came to a head the following Sunday. As they left church together, Thornton confronted them on the steps, flanked by several hired men. "Harrington," he called loudly enough for everyone to hear, "I'm raising my offer for your land. Double what I proposed before. Be sensible, man. The land isn't for sale, Thornton. Not at any price." The older man's face hardened. "Then perhaps the good doctor might reconsider her position in this community. I understand several patients are questioning her competence." He turned to Olivia. "A pity if your reputation were to suffer irreparably." James stepped forward menacingly, but Olivia placed a restraining hand on his arm. "Mr. Thornton," she said clearly, addressing not just him but the townspeople gathering to watch. "I came west because I believed frontier communities valued results over prejudice. I believe people here judged others by their actions, not by rumors or threats." She surveyed the crowd. "I've treated your children's fevers, set your broken bones, delivered your babies. Judge me on that work, not on the words of a man who burns barns and threatens women to get what he wants." A murmur ran through the onlookers. "You can't prove anything," Thornton snarled. "Maybe not," James interjected. "But they know the truth. And so do you." The town sheriff pushed through the crowd. "That's enough, Thornton. I've been hearing things about fires and threats. Might be time for an official inquiry. Thornton's face flushed with anger. You're making a mistake, Harrington. Both of you. He stormed away, his men following. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep, replaying the confrontation and worrying about what Thornton might do next. A soft knock at her door startled her. She opened it to find James standing there, his expression serious. I couldn't wait until morning, he said, stepping inside. Thornton's men are gathering at his ranch. One of my hands overheard them planning to run my cattle off tonight and burn what's left of my buildings. Olivia gasped. We must tell the sheriff. I have. He's gathering men now. James took her hands. But that's not why I came. He drew a deep breath. Whatever happens tonight, I need you to know something. James, let me finish. When I lost my family, I thought I'd never find home again. I was wrong. Home isn't just a place or a memory. It's where your heart finds peace. He knelt before her, still holding her hands. You're my home now, Olivia. Will you marry me? Tears filled her eyes as she pulled him to his feet. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Their kiss was interrupted by the sound of gunshots in the distance. Stay here, James urged, reaching for his hat. Olivia grabbed her medical bag. Those shots mean someone's hurt. I'm coming with you. They rode hard through the moonlit night, arriving at the Harrington ranch to find chaos. Thornton and his men had indeed come to drive off the cattle, but the sheriff's posse had intercepted them. A brief firefight had ensued, leaving 2 of Thornton's men wounded and Thornton himself with a bullet in his leg. As Olivia knelt to treat him, the cattle baron looked up at her with hatred. You should have left well enough alone, woman. I'm a doctor, Mr. Thornton. I don't leave wounded men to suffer, even those who deserve it. The sheriff approached as she worked. We found kerosene and torches in their saddlebags, James. And 3 of these men were recognized from the night your barn burned. That's enough to put Thornton away for years. With Thornton and his men taken into custody, the threat to James's ranch and Olivia's practice was finally ended. As dawn broke over the prairie, James found Olivia sitting exhausted on his porch steps, her medical bag beside her. You saved my worst enemy tonight, he said, settling beside her. I took an oath to heal, not to judge. She leaned against his shoulder. Though I admit I wasn't gentle with the bandaging. James laughed, wrapping an arm around her. Have I told you today that I love you, Dr. Lawson? Not since you proposed, Mr. Harrington. A serious oversight. He kissed her softly. I love you, and I can't wait to build a life with you. Here, she asked, looking out over his land. Or would you consider moving closer to town? It would make my practice easier to manage. James considered this. We could do both. Build a new house halfway between. Close enough for your patients, but still on Harrington land. We could raise horses, not just cattle. Thunder's proven there's good breeding stock here. And children? Olivia asked softly. Would there be room for them too? His eyes softened. As many as you want. 6 months later, as winter snow blanketed the Montana landscape, James and Olivia were married in Willow Creek's small church. The entire town attended, all previous doubts about the lady doctor long forgotten. Thunder stood proudly outside the church, decorated with ribbons for the occasion. As the newlyweds emerged to cheers, James helped Olivia onto the stallion's back before mounting behind her. Ready for home, Mrs. Harrington? He asked, his arms securely around her waist. Olivia leaned back against her husband's chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. I'm already there. They rode together toward their new house, built exactly halfway between town and the original ranch, where the lamps burned warm and bright against the gathering dusk. Behind them, Thunder's hoofprints left a trail in the fresh snow, marking the path from their past to their future. A future neither had believed possible before a wounded horse brought a wounded man and a healing woman together under the vast Montana sky.